looking for Sterling. There's a slip. Sterling with the shot, and Raheem Sterling has scored. Southampton 0, Manchester City 1.
I think Raheem's perfect for Chelsea. I think they need that type of player. Now, some people say, well, Sterling's finishing is not the greatest. He always gets chances and he always gets a decent number.
I think if he goes to Chelsea, it's a backward stepping in terms of chances of winning trophies, but you're going to get the same game time.
Fantastic for Chelsea. And I think it's a great move because I think he'll play a lot more, which I think is the reason why he would leave Manchester City, because he feels like he should be playing every week, and he should for somebody.
If he's not guaranteed that game time and then minutes that he wants, especially in a World Cup year, the fact that he is possibly going to go to Chelsea, I think Chelsea are getting an absolute superstar.
So the four-time Premier League champion Raheem Sterling is set to become the first signing of the Todd Boehly era at Chelsea. The terms have been agreed. It's speculated about 45 million, possibly a bit more than that, for him to move to Stamford Bridge. Is this a good move for you? We heard various voices there. Jamie suggesting it's a backward step because of the trophies that he's been winning at Manchester City. They might not win at Chelsea, but others saying it's a great move.
I think it sums him up as a player and what he wants to achieve, and he wants to play football. Last season, you've seen a lot of clips of Raheem Sterling on the bench, looked angry, confused. Why am I getting no game time? And maybe he come to the stage where he is a bit undervalued at Manchester City. I've noticed with some England fans undervalue him as well. And he was our best player at the Euros. And the amount of goals he scored, over 100 goals for a winger for Manchester City in 7 years. I mean, them figures are unbelievable. And he deserves to be playing every week. He doesn't want to at 27. As we said earlier, crazy that he's only 27.
Yeah.
He's been around for years. But Raheem Sterling needs to be playing every week, and it's a perfect move for him. He's going to be probably the first name on the team sheet, playing off the left next to Havertz. But perfect move for him. And Manchester City, they've got that many options. You know, Alvarez has come in now. Grealish is going to be definitely a starter. Foden the opposite side. Mahrez, Haaland. Young Palmer's there as well, so he's doing the right thing. Other players would sit there, be comfortable. Manchester City, you're going to get your appearances to get a trophy, you're going to get a medal, but he wants to go out and test himself at another club.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gab. I've got to say, Natalie, I think it's a great move for Chelsea, first of all, and I'm looking at Sterling, and he probably feels he just needs to freshen it up a little bit, Gab. You know, that way. He's been sitting on the bench for a lot of the games at City, which would have continued and probably will continue the way that Guardiola rotates his squad, particularly in midfield and forward areas. You know, you probably only get 3 or 4 guaranteed starters every week with Guardiola.
It can be frustrating though, can't it, Ali? You know, like you're a big player like him and you're big Champions League games and you're on the bench and he's probably thinking like, come on, what I've given this club.
This is what I want to ask you both though, because at some stage, I'm sure in both of your careers, you'll have felt, you know, you're feeling undervalued, you're not getting the opportunity that you feel you should be getting, and full credit then to Raheem Sterling going, you know, I don't want to sit on the bench, I want to move, I want to be playing regularly, especially with a World Cup year coming up. But what is it like to feel like that when you're no longer that first choice?
Every year for me, Ali. It didn't happen to Ali. It didn't happen to Ali.
Listen, but it does happen eventually. You get pushed out, unfortunately, from some clubs.
Sometimes you feel like that, and you maybe go and see the manager, and sometimes you might think, you know what, this manager might be struggling a bit, he's going to be gone, so you know, you get a new manager, so new leaf for life, and then you get a chance. But Raheem Sterling, I'm sure he'd want to try different leagues, Ali, as well. But the Chelsea project, you know, it's an exciting one. Chelsea aren't far off. A couple of defenders, maybe another midfielder, talks of Rafinha joining as well. They're not far off, closing that gap.
See, one of the things I love about Sterling, Gabby and Natalie, you'll remember kind of early on, particularly in his City career, I don't think his finishing was clearly up to the standard it should have been. But he worked at it, and him and Guardiola must have worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. And his level of goal now and his quality of finishing and his number of goals has vastly improved.
And he's perfect in that position, isn't it, Ali? On the left, and he can make them runs. You know, he's always going to be at the back post. You know, Reece James getting crosses in. If he's playing on the right, Chilwell getting crosses in. You know, he's going to be in the box as that extra striker, and he's guaranteed goals.
You were saying early on, Ali, that minimum top 4 obviously is what they'll be expecting this season, Chelsea. But if they do bring in Sterling, if they do bring in another midfielder and get their defensive line sorted,
Rafinha, hopefully, they can get him over.
What would you expect, Gabby, from Chelsea?
They've got to be looking. Chelsea as a football club have to be looking at winning the Premier League. Like the era I played in, they were up there winning titles. The John Terry, Lampard, Drogba era. 3rd, 4th isn't good enough for Chelsea. And I'm sure Thomas Tuchel, as good as he's done a job there winning the Champions League, he'll be under pressure next season if that gap between Liverpool and Man City isn't shortened, because it's not good enough for Chelsea.
So what does that... But I mean, it's 19 points, wasn't it?
Exactly.
In the end, that was a huge gap. And Ali, you rightly pointed out, they sort of faded towards the end of last season. They played an extraordinary amount of games, but they did win the Champions League, as you pointed out the previous season. They were the World Club champions as well. How can they close the gap on the top 2? Because it was so difficult.
Yeah, I think last season was disappointing, wasn't it? Lukaku wasn't on form. He had that interview that didn't help him. But Pulisic, I said it last season, he's not good enough for Chelsea. Ziyech, not good enough for Chelsea. I said this last season, and I got a bit of stick, but they're not good enough. Get Sterling in, get Rafinha in. They're guaranteed to get you more goals than Pulisic and Ziyech. And then that's going to help them close the gap for me. But Thomas Tuchel has to close that gap, because doing okay in the Champions League, like they did last season, getting to finals of domestic cups, that's not enough for Chelsea. They need to be winning Premier League titles again very soon.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.